Okay, we are ready to rumble. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for coming. Obviously, we've got a few folks out of town, so we could spread out. Put your feet up. That's great. I'm aware of two new residents who are here today, so I'd like to take just a moment to introduce them. Michael Toffolo, right back here. Stand up, Michael, please. Welcome. Been here about 5 weeks, right? And open for any invitation, right? Welcome. Really glad you're here. And Denise Crouch back here. Welcome, Denise. So we have a relatively full agenda today. This is one of the months where we have one more committee report than normal. Plus, we've added two additional reports than normal that are topical. So we wanted to make sure those get handled as well. But let's dive right into the committee reports immediately. And Building and Grounds, Cam Sharp.
Thanks, Win. We had on 5/20, we had our monthly building grounds meeting. We had 34 attended the meeting on May 20th. And the chair complimented engineering and housekeeping on some of their prompt and effective resolution of numerous safety and appearance issues. Thank you. Committee member Bob Capel reported that we had 300 organized rounds of golf the previous month. That may have set a new record. We have move-in supervisor Sam Martinez visited with us, and he reviewed how apartment and casita renovations and updates are performed. There had been some questions about what do you do if you have a punch list and something wasn't right from construction. He advised that any construction problems, punch lists, or move-in issues should be directed to his office, and subsequent routine maintenance items are then handled through the work order process with engineering or housekeeping. Our landscaping issues we weren't able to discuss because Louis Brasida was unable to attend. Jason Halvey reviewed challenges many have faced with the Cox.net email program. Has anybody had problems with that? I'm the only one. Okay. Some did report that the Cox transition instructions only worked after Cox had terminated your account. So that's when it finally worked. Monique Walker noted several housekeeping issues. A stock of existing carpet has been salvaged and retained for use during elevator replacement period. So now when the elevators get soiled from some of the errant puppies, they will be able to replace some of the carpet. So we should see some improvements on a couple of the elevators shortly. Two of the casita driveways are scheduled for tests, the concrete cleaning process. As some of you may know, some of the golf carts have had batteries that leaked and created some stains on the casita driveways. Monique also advised that residents who wish to cancel or defer cleaning services should notify housekeeping with a work order. Don't call, just send in a work order. And a hairdryer is now available in the ladies' locker room. Philip Love reported on engineering issues. And he reported that the newly installed outlet nozzles are what really solved the velocity problem with the spa out here in by the outdoor pool. We had a number of people who were complaining that it didn't massage like it did before, but they made some improvements, and I have had at least 2 or 3 people have told me that it really works now. And okay, we had a little problem with the closer on the door to the cafe kitchen, and engineering got that replaced. They sent a new closer, and it really works great now. It does the job. And that's also improved the service function, and it relieved some potential resident safety issues from the door being pushed open because the hold open didn't work before. And the scheduled elevator replacement staging or schedule provides two resident benefits that we've discovered. The first is that reasonably deferred replacement schedule, which is what our plan is, provides considerable cost savings for the residents. And the second benefit is that the spare components from those that are replaced will be available for rapid repair of the remaining elevators. If there's a board goes out or something, we won't need to wait months to have a new board built. Okay, we had a couple of guest comments, and one was that elevator signage was requested for some emergency procedures by residents. And there have been a couple of times when residents really didn't know what to do. And so we may be able to get some kind of a sign telling them what to do. We had in the closed team meeting, Tom Becky reviewed Grayhawk community landscape updates. He also was able to get bushes trimmed out on 78th Street. Many of you know, if you go out to 78th Street, if you look upstream, you couldn't see the cars coming because the bushes obstructed them. And it is dramatically improved, but they're going to have to keep trimming them to keep that under control. Mary Lemire advised the team of paint and sconce lighting samples at apartment 253. That's on the west end of the lodge. And the colors and the style did receive favorable reviews from everybody that saw them. V Management is now providing water and water use data so the utility subcommittee can prepare some comparisons to our use as we try to improve the water usage, water consumption. And Dick Ardern reported that the mobility device co-op program with Foothills Caring Corp should be in place shortly. So that's where we have residents that need a mobility device, a walker or cane or something. We will be able to get them now from Foothills Caring Corp. Okay, respectfully submitted, Cameron Short. All right.
And just remind the committee chairs making reports to please give Sue Anderson a copy of the report so they can be appended to the notes from this meeting. Barbara Eckelmeyer. Hiding behind the post.
So if it doesn't work, I'm off the hook.
Dave is here. Fix it for it's really bright and sharp.
Well, it used to be. Good afternoon. Every member of the Care Center Committee has a role that takes them regularly to the Care Center. So most of the work is done outside of our meeting times. But the meetings, the get-togethers are helpful in our education process. So we have staff people there, particularly Melanie Bartola, Jason Hell. They help us understand how the Care Center works and how independent living works into the Care Center. So they play a very important role. A different Care Center staff person comes every month. So far we have had Melanie Bartola, Autumn Davis, Amanda Chandler, Director of Nursing, Cindy Backus, Assisted Living Manager, explain their roles so that we understand them more thoroughly. Now, last time I was here, I told you about the goals that we had for this year's Care Center Committee. So I want to give you a report in light of those goals. There's still a lot to accomplish. There are places where we need to grow, but a lot has happened as well. So first of all, we want to encourage interactions that result in residents still feeling like part of the community when they move to the Care Center. And I hope you have noticed a lot of back and forth action. We see people playing cards. We see people using the library. We see people in the dining room. Those are good things. There is something that just came to our attention, and we'll probably be talking with resident council on how to broadcast this a little more fully. But when our neighbors from the care center are in independent living, their pendants do not work. They are attached to a different system. And so we have to call someone here. We have to alert a staff person here or use a pendant nearby that's here. But that's important for us to all understand, and we'll try to communicate that in a global way. Now, some of the care center people are not quite as mobile. They don't come over as often, but we have a group of 10 volunteers called Caring Neighbors who regularly make visits to friends in the care center. So they are visiting, I think the number is 36 of residents in the care center on a regular basis. Secondly, we wanted to facilitate meaningful volunteer opportunities that enrich the lives of those who serve and those being served. More than 20 independent living residents serve in the care center on a regular basis. I think that's really good. There are resident-led activities in art and music and Bible study. There are those who assist with lifestyle activities. The biggest lifestyle activity, of course, is bingo, right? Yeah, it is. And we have people on the transition assistance program and those Caring Neighbors. So I think we are working well with that goal. The next one is to be a resource and a voice to independent living residents in a way that helps them develop a positive, accurate impression of the care center and its benefits. I think helping the committee understand how things work provides us with good info so that we can respond to your questions and concerns. We also address concerns where we can when you bring them to us, and where we cannot, we pass them along to the appropriate person. Now, sometimes we don't get an answer quickly. I do hope that we will be having a town hall soon that will be a care center town hall. And I hope you will plan to come and bring your questions to that. One of our other goals is be an advocate for care center residents, addressing both concerns and suggestions with the appropriate persons. Our transition assistance program, we have followed 30 people who have been admitted to the care center this particular quarter. And part of the goal there is to say, is everything going all right? Are there ways that we can help you in this transition process? And then, of course, the Caring Neighbors are alert to concerns that they can report as well. And then our last goal was to support the care center management and staff as they maintain and improve our excellent care center. We do want to say, well done. There was a recent inspection, and there was one minor deficiency that was quickly corrected. So everything was a very good inspection, and we can be very proud of our staff and our care center. There is a way where we can do better. As you know, that this is a licensed facility, and that means there are a lot of regulations that go along with the care center. One of the regulations is that we are to sign in and out. Everybody who visits the care center is to sign in and out, and there are reasons for that. And some of those reasons don't seem quite as pertinent when we actually live under the same roof. However, those who issue the license, they don't look at it that way. It's still a requirement. And sometimes we get over there and we forget. And what I've heard is that the staff is sometimes hesitant to remind us about that because they don't like dealing with angry people. So if you get over there and you forget, please be kind. It is part of their job We don't want to make their job any harder. Respectfully submitted, Barbara Eckelmeyer.
Thank you, Barb. Liesl, there you are. Liesl Nolan for dining.
Good afternoon. Our dining committee met on Tuesday, May 7th. The notes are available online and in the library. We want to thank Greg and Chef Ray for an awesome Mother's Day brunch, and I hope everyone enjoyed the Memorial Day barbecue. This was the most attended event the dining has ever had, so kudos to them. Greg has indicated that we are in for a quiet summer, and he also wanted you to know that he tracks when errors occur on takeout orders and addresses these issues with the staff. Fish, fish, fish. What can we say about the fish? Too dry, too overcooked, not cooked enough, not flaky, not seared as advertised. I do not know what to say. But your committee is aware of these problems and we hear you. We will keep working with the kitchen until we get things right. Chef Ray spent most of the meeting explaining about his working with numbers and trying to keep costs down. Too few are coming to Sunday brunch. Most Sundays there are maybe 20, and then another Sunday he may have 50. More than 3 times as many do takeout. We are trying to figure out the reasons, and working with those numbers is a juggling act. Making enough food, not being wasteful. Most food here cannot be repurposed. Greg shared that one night a resident filled out a comment card praising the vegetarian entree, while another was upset because there were not as many chicken beef options. As Chef said, I am darned if I do and darned if I don't. Now I cleaned that up. New items in the bar include chili, seasoned fries, and dessert. At the end of the summer, expect to see some more offerings. The $5.74 for unused meal credits will stay the same, and as Yannick said at the town hall, the dress code for lunch in the Alpenglow will stay the same. We are putting these 2 items to rest. Our next meeting will be held a week later on Tuesday, June 11th in the Cardin Room. Be kind and know that we hear you. Bon appetit. Respectfully submitted, Liesl Nolan.
Mr. Smith, let's talk some finance.
So I'm going to try a new trick here with the microphone. Monthly meeting of the Finance Committee was held last week with Yannick and Michelle Showalter here. Overall, the financials are looking better through April than they have been for a while. Yannick reported that most of last week, it was a bit of good news. Sales activity. Okay. Sales activity is going well, even without a sales director. And there's 5 new sales, which means there's 5 deposits, so they can work the new residents up. An issue related to the revenue on it, though, is the turn time, that once they get the deposit to be able to have the resident move in. Those are still lagging a bit. They're working on it. They're working on finding a second contractor, and Yannick said they have a proposal. They're looking at it. It seems pretty good, but they haven't really had a chance to check him out yet. Also of interest, following up on the Care Center report. Close. Okay. All right. So I could. So where'd we go? Care Center activity. The Care Center is filling up pretty well, and actually assisted living is basically full now, and that could be a challenge possibly going forward, not for finances, but otherwise. But skilled nursing, memory support are both doing well. There's good revenue, but it's somewhat short because we're short on private pays in both of those. They're also working on that. With regard to expenses, we've talked some, or Lisa will just mention that a bit. Their cost issues with culinary continue. They've been pretty much tracking the same all year long. The chef is working on that. He's doing different types of corrections to it, but he's still got a lot of work to do. Fortunately, my friend sitting over here next to me is working with the other activities to try to balance that out to keep the budget on track overall. And it's having a big effect. Overall, we're hopeful for a good end of year outlook with possibly a pretty good surplus on it. We're currently right on budget. Hopefully we can carry that over and, God willing, a lower fee increase next year. The other issue, not quite along the same lines from our point of view as Lisa mentioned, but the dress code in the dining room is an issue financially. That's the area we spent for the dining room itself, probably about $2 million of the $2.5 million that we spent, residents spent. And it's not, the dining room at lunch is not carrying its load. That's because there's not that many people showing up. Any given day, there may be 1 or 2 or 3 tables, and that's about all, and they have to maintain it. Yonex intend on keeping it going. The committee's position on that is, with the dress code like it is, people don't want to dress up to go to lunch. I look around the room, and I don't think any of us could go to lunch. And we talked about that. Actually, at one point, he said, I think everybody here in the meeting is dressed just fine to go to lunch. All the men stood up, and we were wearing shorts or jeans. So there is an issue there. It is the most restrictive dress code in the Phoenix metro area. And we're hoping we can find a compromise of some sort to make that work. From the interactive theme I used back a couple of months ago, how many people here would like to see the dress code on the jeans and Levi's changed over to make it more flexible? Raise a hand. Are those opposed? A few of each. We've also suggested to him that something we might look at is a test program of opening up the dress code for a little while and see what effect that has on it. Summertime's going to be a hard time to do that, so we'll see as we get going. The other issue that's also an ongoing concern is the CIRR, our cash reserve, which is actually a cash deficit. We started the year with a deficit of about $5 million, which I talked about once before. Projected capital expenditures for the year are actually about $4 million more. And it looks like the funding to offset that is only going to be about $1.5 million. So as that goes, we're going to wind up with probably a deficit on the order of $7.5 million. That's a interest-free loan from V to the residents, which sounds pretty good. But at the same time, it's being paid back over years with a 5.6% deduction or increase in our monthly fees. So if you look at 5.6% increase, that's just about what it was this year from last year to this year. That is expected quite possibly to go up to 6% next year, and that will carry on for several years. That's a fact of life. There's a lot of things that need to be worked on, and so we'll have to ride that out, but everybody needs just to be aware of that. Our next meeting will be on Friday the 28th, a little change because of some conflicts in schedules, and we're still working out the time and location. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Bob. Marge Pelham, Hospitality Committee.
Good afternoon. The Hospitality Committee is alive and well and always hospitable. We have 35 plus members who also always wear a smile and hopefully their name badges. I'm not seeing too many name badges in here today, so please improve on that. As Carol Steele said at the April Resident Council meeting, it takes a village, and it sure does for our committee. Everybody works hard. The members are involved in one or more of the following endeavors: mentors to new residents, La Mesa and party tables, monthly in the Prickly Pear and Alpenglow, men's table, mix and mingle, excuse me, cocktail gatherings. We always encourage members to invite new residents to lunch, dinner, the fantastic new bar, or their homes. All is well with the Hospitality Committee. Respectfully submitted, Marge Pellin.
Thanks, Marge. We have a Lucky Strike Extra report. You heard a little bit earlier on Building and Grounds that Tom Becky is the representative for V as part of the overall Grayhawk HOA. And he serves our interests on the, well, I'll just let you explain it. Mr. Tom Becky.
Thank you. We had a meeting of the Grayhawk Landscape Committee on May 15th. We went out to look at 4 different areas where the landscape contractor is upgrading the vegetation, replacing old plants that have died or are past their prime with new plants that have color, shape, and it all looks pretty good, and they're going to be done pretty soon. We did recommend addition of plants in a few locations. We also recommended that they install some riprap where there's signs of erosion already developing so that they won't have dirt going onto the pavement and such. Meeting was adjourned after we selected our next meeting time, which will be June 18th. And since the meeting, I've sent in work requests to have the shrubbery on 76th Street north of the east entrance to the parking lot, and also in the median of Thompson Peak Parkway, shrubs to be cut down so that there's safe sight lines for oncoming traffic. Respectfully submitted, Tom Becky.
Thanks. No, you understand that that's for the Grayhawk community at large that he is representing us, not V at Grayhawk. And it's an important part of the work, and we all owe Tom a debt of gratitude for the work he's been doing there. So thank you, sir. We talked a little bit earlier about the care center, and you heard some of the things they're doing. We learned about a newer program. I think it's newer. And Autumn Davis from the Care Center has been kind enough to agree to come over and chat with us a little bit about that.
Hello, I'm Autumn Davis. I'm the Care Center Lifestyle Manager. I know most of you, not all of you. But so Doris Frignac, one of our residents, an independent, she's been here a long time. She didn't want to, she doesn't like to speak. So I'm speaking for her in crowds, yes. So she's been kind of taking over in charge of our art wall over in assisted living and displaying some of residents' art from here and from the care center. And I stopped her one day and I asked if she'd be interested in leading a class. And she said, oh, wonderful. So she brought all of her stuff. She's got this big suitcase, all of her paints. And we call it Playing with Paints because we're trying to get anyone in all levels. You don't have to be a professional painter. Some people have never painted. And it's every Monday from 3:30 to about 4:15. And she leads a watercolor class. And it's been just an amazing experience. She has a background in special education teaching. And she is just amazing working with the residents. Sometimes we'll have guests, and I encourage you to come and sit and paint with her. And I've brought some of their, well, you can't really see probably very well, but just really simple, beautiful artwork that they've created. And then we frame it and we display it on our art wall. outside of my office. So it's been wonderful. So I encourage you to all come Monday at 3:30. Come join us. You're welcome. Thank you.
Thanks, Autumn. Yeah, Doris is a little shy in front of a group, so Autumn was kind enough to agree to give us a little update. It's a wonderful program, and I would strongly encourage you, if you have the opportunity, to visit the Care Center, not just for the residents who are there, of course, that's very important, but also to learn more about what goes on over there. It's incredible, the programs and the work that's done, really, really special. The next item on the agenda is the bylaw election update, and for that, I'm going to ask Jane Weinberg to take the floor.
Hi. As most of you know, voting on the resident council bylaws ends this Friday, and we've made every effort to maintain your anonymity in this whole voting process, and Wynn wanted me to explain what we're going to do on Saturday morning. Most of you received ballots that you were to insert into a small envelope that had no identification, no identifying matters on it. That in turn was supposed to be placed into a larger envelope that did include your names and unit numbers. To make it easier for the residents in the care center, we only had one envelope, and it did have your information about your identity. But let me explain how we intend to count the ballots on Saturday. For those of you who had the 2 envelope systems, first we will record that you voted, and we have a list of residents, and we will take your names off of the larger envelope, and we will record your vote. We'll then remove the smaller envelope containing your ballot, but not any self-identifying information. We will open that up and we will put it into a large receptacle. It's really a garbage bag, you know, okay. And we'll mix them up. For those of you who have only the one envelope that had that only had your name on it, I have a little tool that I will mark your names off after I have recorded that you have voted. We will, after we have blackened that out, we'll open up the ballot. We will insert the ballot in with all of the other envelopes, mix them up, and we will then record the actual votes on the 3 items that were included in the ballot. And to assure you that all of this is being done the way I have outlined it, we've asked 2 residents to oversee the operations. Think of them as poll watchers, unpaid, but nevertheless dedicated.
And for total transparency, those 2 residents are Ron Sonnenberg and Jerry Marshall, who are experienced resident council members and actually oppose some of the items on the ballots. So we thought that would be a very, very fair way to do it. If you have not yet voted, to underscore what Jane just said, please do so by the end of the day Friday, because that's the deadline, and we will count the votes Saturday morning, and shortly thereafter next week we'll issue the results to everyone, both in the care center and here in independent living. So everybody cool with that? If you haven't voted yet, please make sure you take the time to do it, okay? Okay. We have guests this month, as usual. Yannick is not here because, as you all will recall, it is his practice that in a month where he is doing a town hall, and he did one this month. We have 2 representatives from his cabinet that are here. Michelle Showalter and Robert Davis took the bullet this month, so we're really pleased to have them here. And I will leave it up to you how you guys want to proceed, but obviously your questions will be welcome once they have an opportunity to share some things with you.
All right, I'll go first. What I'd like to talk about, obviously, is a lot of things in regards to what was brought up in regards to the turnovers and the contractors and things like that. you know, we don't miss the dates. I just want to be clear about that, that we're given to the residents. So we currently have one contractor. We have a secondary one that we are in the process of vetting currently. So the biggest issue that we come across, especially here in Scottsdale, Arizona, is cost and value. So we're in that process of trying to find another contractor. We got one that's in line right now. But the bigger issue, which is a great issue, we don't have any apartments. So, you know, when we do bring this other contractor in, it will be what we are calling a move-in ready apartment. We're going to make the selections and we'll have this new contractor do it when that opportunity arises, because then we can have an opportunity to really, I have to walk them through a lot of the items that, you know, that's really unique to Viet Greyhawk and the way we do things, from where to park, what elevator to use, things, the way we do our processes in regards to scheduling. And I didn't want to put that on a new contractor for a resident moving in. So as soon as we get an opportunity, we're close to finalizing this other contractor. They got all their numbers and everything like that, just waiting for their insurances to go through. Then once we get an apartment, we're going to do a move-in ready apartment for that. One of the things I'd like to talk about in regards to the turnovers, because obviously I work closely with Sam, the move-in coordinator. I work alongside him. We work together on a lot of the issues that we come across. We're trying to streamline a lot of the processes, because what we've realized, and it's kind of unique because it kind of goes in cycles. Yeah, the way prospects or new residents come in. Some of you may or may have experienced this yourself, is regards to the changes of the proposal. So when a prospect puts their 10% down, we open the apartment up to the contractor. We talk to the contractor, but the resident makes their selections. So on that selections, anything outside of our standard product, say a light or a fan or whatever, you know, it's on a proposal. A lot of prospects have a lot on their proposal. So then when it gets turned in, they say, well, I want to change this, I want to change that. I'd say about 50% of the time on that proposal itself, it really may not have any impact on what the contractor is scheduling. But when a resident decides, let's say there's an apartment that has tile and they want to change it out, well, that's the schedule's already done not to change the tile. So then we have to redo the schedule. So these are things that have been happening lately that we're trying to put a little bit more firm dates on the conversations with the prospects and the residents coming in, saying, okay, you can't make any more changes after this date because we want to be able to get you in on the date that we set in the move-in. So that's something that we are working on closely all the time and trying to streamline that process. And it really starts from when you put your 10% down, the conversation in regards to the apartment that you're picking, the expectations. Some residents may have had this themselves where, you know, prospects come in, they have friends, you know, they go to their apartment, they see what they got, then they go to another friend's apartment and see what they got, then they constantly change their selections. So we're trying to put a streamline on a little bit better. We have a good plan in place. We expect that to obviously start moving forward on the next few residents that are coming in. So we're really excited about that, but the sales team's been doing a great job keeping everything moving and busy in that nature. The other thing I'd like to talk about is in regards just to the capital projects. They're going along pretty well. Obviously, the portage shed got done. We finished the asphalt over by the garage section, 76th Street. It was from last year, but we finished that. HVAC replacements are one of the big ones that are coming. Obviously, all the residents' homes have been changed out, so those are all brand new. These are electrical rooms, some common areas, and some offices. So we're doing some of those. I don't have a date when they're coming in, but they're in process. They're being built. The last thing we're waiting on currently is over by 505 to 510, which is also 524, 523, and I think 522. That section of the asphalt is degraded. So it's time to replace that section. So I'm working with the residents, trying to see if any of them are going out of town to make it easy. It's because unfortunately that one side doesn't have a sidewalk. So we're trying to figure that out to save time, but it looks like we're just gonna have to put a temporary access there for those residents. So it'll just take a little bit longer, but from start to finish, we expect it to be 5 to 7 days. So we'll be putting something out with that once we get it kind of finalized on our dates. The summer is very busy, obviously, for asphalt contractors. So once I finish talking to the residents this week, we'll get that on the schedule. Obviously, the other thing, the roof obviously got replaced on the B wing, which was quite a project. So we're already in process working with our third-party consultant. They were out for the next year's replacements. So we're waiting for that, and we'll get a proposal from the contractor, and that'll be all put in for next year's budgets. So that's something that we're excited about. You know, I've talked about it. I'll talk about it again. You know, Benchmark, which is our third-party consultant for our asphalt and our roofs, and they come out and do all the inspections. They do a great job of putting us in budgetary-wise for the next 5-10 years of what needs to be done. But they're extremely impressed with our roofs, you know, and they still plan on using it as a case study for future. So, you know, we should all be very proud that our roofs lasted as long as they did. The next thing in regards to capitals, the elevator modernizations. So we have a conference call coming up to kind of solidify the dates. It looks like that's going to happen in early mid-July. There's a couple parts that are still being built. So we're expecting that hopefully early July is the real goal. But they don't want to give us any dates because the part, unfortunately, the specific part that they need is kind of like right in the middle of the process. So if they don't have that part, they would have to stop the process of remodernization anyway. So I'm expecting by the end of June to have firm dates for that for elevator 1 and 2 modernization. So we're excited about that. Then we'll also obviously look at the budgets for next year. And one thing that was mentioned in regards to the elevators, you know, the elevators are obviously original and some of the parts are obsolete. So that'll be part of the modernization of 1 and 2 is reserving those pieces for future elevators and service, things like that. That's something that we're going to be working on as well. I know elevator 6 is down. We're waiting for the ETA of that service. I'm hopeful to have an answer by the end of the week when we get that up and going, because obviously I know that's a very important elevator. I think that's all the projects that I got going on. I'll hand it over to Michelle for now.
Hello, everyone. How are you today? Hopefully well. Getting a little warm out there, finally. I love it. So I just wanted to first comment on a few things that were said from Mr. Smith, just on the CIRR. So first of all, I realize that's a very scary number. It's very large. So I will tell you that number will also continue to grow because we're going to be doing the corridors, and we have a lot of plans to modernize the community, make us more desirable for competitive reasons, obviously, and keep our sales strong, which is what we want. Now, because that is a loan by the corporate office, they track that. So they know it's not up to us here at this level who's budgeting for that type of stuff. It's the corporate office. So if anyone knows how much they can loan us, it's them. So they definitely have the money. As far as the payback, they're doing it interest-free. So we don't have a concern about that. It can take the next 20 years, you know, they're not going to come. I know there's been questions or a concern that they're going to be like, you know, your taxes. Somebody may come along and say, oh, you're getting this assessment and you now owe us $500,000 right now. That is not going to happen. I know there's been some chatter about that, I've heard. So that is not going to happen. As far as the fee going up, it began at 4%. So in 25 years, it's gone from 4% to 5.6. So not a lot. If you look at the whole 25 years, the community has been open. Some of you may remember Amy Matero. It was our wish that we had raised it quite some time ago, but we had to look at how that would impact the monthly fee overall. And when we would have our corporate call, they would say, well, you know, why don't we not raise it this time, and let's do it next time because we don't want to pass along a larger monthly fee increase. So that's why it took so long to go from 4.0 to 5.2 when we first raised it. So that's that. So hopefully that gives you a little comfort. It will continue to go up, but there will not be any kind of assessment that's provided to us that we need to pay it back immediately or anything like that. It'll just be over time. And once the community is remodeled, of course, we'll always then be remodeling something else, but the largest cost will be finished, if that makes sense. And then you'll start to experience it going the other direction. On our finances, I will say, as Mr. Smith indicated, we are right on budget. We're under $500. That's how close we are. 4 months. Our independent living revenue is very strong. We're right on target for the month. We did have 5 deposits in May. In the care center, since this report came out, we've gotten 3 more private pays in skilled nursing. So our private pay in skilled nursing has just been really great this year. Our Medicare numbers through today, we're averaging 14.6, I believe, on a budget of 9. So Medicare, that's just gravy for us. You know, we didn't budget that high. We went in pretty conservative on those numbers. And so that's also helping, which brings up my next point. So as a lot of you probably recall, last quarter of last year, everything fell apart. Looked like we were going to make it. The departure of Chris, our chef, everything just happened in the kitchen. Food costs were sky high. Labor was out of control. Temp labor, we were losing staff. It was awful. And I think we were all pretty shocked. You know, we saw it coming, but there wasn't a whole lot we could do, and without the staffing that we needed. So since Chris's departure, we really started digging in, and I went back to pre-COVID days. You know, what schedule worked back then? You know, what could we be doing? Obviously, we have a little bit of a different layout now with our new venues opening and whatnot. So that would change the staffing a little bit, but overall, there shouldn't be the impact we were seeing. Like, something's not right here. So I was able to find those schedules. I meet with Ray every week. We also meet with Yannick, of course. And he and Marco have put together a really good plan for scheduling, minimizing as much overtime as they can, eliminating temp labor completely by June 1st. So March started with temp labor, looking at supplies, food costs, waste, those types of things. That rolled into April. May, we started really drilling down into the new scheduling and efficiencies. You know, so Ray was working individually with his staff to find out where could they be utilized in a better way, or how could we make this process more efficient. And even from a food perspective, like cutting down on costs there, he gave me a prime example of, say he buys fish, and it was fish, $36 a pound, maybe it was filet. And if he doesn't have time to prep that himself, he pays $36 a pound. But if he has a chance to prep it himself, that brings that cost down to like $22 to $26 a pound. So just doing that with his skill set and his experience level, he's been able to reduce costs in that way. Not to mention working with Greg really closely on managing reservations and things like that. So all that to say, we have a great plan in place, should start seeing a good result in our June results. We'll see some in May with temp labor going down. So we'll start to see that normalizing. Honestly, I'm not sure if we'll ever get to 0 in that department. But the point I make in finance is that all of us are working together. So the main goal is to look at that bottom line number and not look at the big brackets around culinary, because we as a team have come together and we're making cuts in different areas. Robert is the prime example. He's given me quite a bit of money. So that's all I have.
Yeah. So I just got an update from my HVAC contractor in regards to they have received all the HVAC units. So they're prepping them now, and they expect to start doing that work at the end of June. So the HVAC work will start the end of June, which doesn't really affect the residents per se, because it's not their units. But we're excited about it because, you know, the electrical rooms, things like that obviously are very important for the AC to be working all the time and efficiently. So the other thing I forgot to mention earlier was the roll down fire door at the bottom of the stairwell. I'll be putting out I'll have Jeffrey put out a scroll tomorrow, but since we're here, Friday, the part's in, so Friday they'll be out to install the new motor for the door. Then next Tuesday, the drywall contractor will be out to do the ceiling and the wall and get that done. So we're hopeful to be open by the end of next week. So that's kind of where we're at with that. Thank you.
Thanks, Robert. Thanks, Michelle. Any questions? Okay, Carolyn, will you help me with handling the mic? Oh, you're going to do it? Okay. Here you go. Over here. Hold on, wait for the mic. Wait for the mic, please. Thank you.
I wanted to find out if there's been any progress towards coming up with a cost to repair and get those elevators that have been out now for a couple of weeks back into service, so that those of us that live on the 3rd floor, and possibly, I don't know if it goes down to the 2nd or not, but those of us that live on the 3rd floor, it gets to be a real job with our food every day.
Yes, and that's one thing I mentioned. I'm expecting an update hopefully this week with the schedule. So I'm very hopeful that it's going to be here shortly.
David Lemire, 300, for benefit of anybody who's listening. My question is to both of you, and it really comes from my finance committee background more than just being a resident. I thought I heard Building and Grounds talk about the deferral of rebuilding elevators 1 and 2 is saving us money. I don't see how that could possibly save us money. Can you explain how that's saving us money?
Yeah, I'm not sure what that meant. We're not deferring anything. It's just waiting for the parts.
So it changes the timing of the expense month to month, but it's going to, the ultimate cost is going to be the same.
Yeah, we haven't said delay or anything. It's just waiting for the parts. Yeah, we haven't said anything.
So it doesn't save us any money at all by putting it off.
Not that I'm aware of. No. Yeah.
I actually promised myself that I would not have a question this time, but I cannot let this go. Liesl, you said that the 574 was tabled. Does that mean it's tabled for now and that'll be reevaluated at the end of the year when they're doing budget, or does that mean it's never going to be reevaluated?
I'll take that, unless you'd like to. It actually was #1 and I just blew right over it, so I'm sorry. So this is a question every year and it's always an issue. So the reason it's 574, and we can certainly look at it. If it doesn't increase the monthly fee by much, of course we would be happy to do it. But you realize it's a circle of money. So in other words, if I raise that to $6 or higher, that just comes right back at you because now we have less revenue. Because we have our independent living revenue that comes in, and then we have meal credits that are taken off the revenue. Does everybody understand that? So then that gives us less to work with. So the higher the meal credit, the higher your monthly fee. So now it wouldn't be a huge impact. It might be 0.25% or something like that, but it does have an impact. But we do look at it every year, and I'm totally open to it. We can maybe talk about that in our budget meeting and see what kind of an impact it would have for the 2025 budget year. Because, I'm sorry, one more thing. Sorry, because the people it benefits are the people that have a lot of meal credits, right? You have a lot of meal credits, you want that meal credit to be really high. And a lot of people do have a lot of meal credits. But it's the other people, they're like, well, no, I don't want to have the higher meal credit because I want a lower monthly fee. So you see the challenge there. I'm open to it though, I'm all for it.
But you're blaming us, you're blaming the meal credit. Now you have a whole lot of expenses. Every expense affects the money that we pay, every expense.
Correct.
So you can't say, we can't do this because it's going to raise it. How about we don't have any air conditioning? That would save a lot of money. You know, there's different things. Everything affects the money, everything. So you can't blame the meal credit for the raise.
Well, it's part of the overall increase.
Yes, it's part of the overall, like having fish that is $32.
Right.
It's
So
part of that. And how can you actually tell us what was that number based on originally? Because it certainly wasn't food cost even 25
it's supposed to be a nominal return to a resident because the goal is to get them to go to the dining room. It's just a nominal amount we're giving you to not have a meal. It was never meant to be the equivalent of how much an actual meal costs.
It's an insult to the residents. $5.74. You couldn't even do $5.75?
I'm just telling you, like I said, I have zero problem. You know, so later in the year, if we want to have another meeting and I'll say, well, all of our other expenses are figured out, but if we increase this meal credit, it might go up another 0.25%. Are you guys okay with that? I don't mind.
Okay, let's move on. Thank you. Any other questions or lectures that anyone would care to?
Michelle, I suppose, and Robert, Mary Lemire 300. When we came in 10 years ago, we were told that there would be a renovation of the facility in 2020. We're now looking at the possibility that this renovation will drag into 2027. Other Vs that I'm aware of, because their CIRR did accumulate enough money to cover their costs, were renovated in a more timely manner and did not end up with rooms that are approaching the condition of some of our spaces that have not been redone. Is there any way we can accelerate the rate that owners are loaning us money so that we can get this thing done?
That I would find out more information in our next budget meeting for capital, which would be in August, September timeframe. However, I can tell you from last year's call, not everyone was on target. There were other communities delayed as well. So we're all like a couple, you know, that I'm not quite sure. I can just tell you what I was on the call, and I do know that other communities were also delayed. That's all I really know. I was not in that conversation about it being remodeled in 2020. I don't recall that. Do you?
The only thing I recall, obviously, when we did it in 2009, the conversation was 10 years. So then that's kind of was the conversation. I have no idea on the budgetary side. It was just a conversation of when the next one was going to be. I wouldn't be able to answer anything other than that.
Any other questions? I'm looking over here. I'm not seeing any over there. Okay, a couple of last things for the good of the order than anything else. Our next meeting goes back to our normal cadence on Mondays. Obviously, we didn't do the Memorial Day meeting, and it will be on June 24th, and you'll see that in the activities calendar and on the website. Also, I think most of you saw in the weekly report that Billy Wall just celebrated her 20th anniversary here. And for those of you that remember MASH, Billy Wall is the Radar O'Reilly of V. She is extraordinary. If you see her, just congratulate her. She was woefully uncomfortable yesterday when a group of members of the cabinet and a couple of us from council were permitted to participate in a little bit of a recognition for her, and she was absolutely mortified. But she absolutely is the critical part of this place, and I hope you will just take a moment and extend your congratulations for her service and hope it's another 20 years as well. So that does it. Those of you that have been watching on 1960, thank you. Those of you that made the effort to come here, thank you.